Hello and welcome to Financial Deep Dive with CWT. My name is Caleb Tanner. I own financebycwt.com, which is a website basically doing financial media content. You can go on the website and see a ton of different blogs that we do. We do this podcast, things like that, and everything we do is designed around information on the market. And for today's episode, I want to talk about something that I find very interesting. Proshares has launched a Metaverse ETF. And because of that, it was something that I've been considering buying. And since I've been considering buying it, and I know probably other people are, kind of on the fence about it too, what I want to do for this podcast episode is one, talk about the actual ETF, and then two, we're going to look at the different holdings in the ETF and kind of see are these stocks that, I want to be a part of? Are these the companies that I think are going to build the metaverse? And obviously the first question anyone should be asking if they're debating buying a metaverse ETF is, do they believe in the metaverse? If you believe in the metaverse and, that part you're good with, right? You think the metaverse is going to happen. Is this the ETF that you want to be a part of? Are these the companies that you think are actually going to build the metaverse? I was really happy when Proshares launched this initially because one, I'm a huge fan of Proshares. I like the work that they do, and also they launched the first Bitcoin ETF. Now it was a Bitcoin futures ETF, and a lot of people, are against betting on the futures market, and especially a lot of Bitcoiners. I've not seen that enthusiastic about the ETF. In fact, most Bitcoiners I've seen are trying to get people not to buy the ETF or saying they should just hold the coin instead. But I admire ProShares for being the first company to really start an ETF in this sector, especially since the SEC won't, allow a spot ETF right now. That's something I really like about ProShares. And I do like the company a lot. I'm a big fan of ProShares themselves. So, with that in mind, when they launched a Metaverse ETF, which I am a fan of, I do believe in the vision for the Metaverse. If you follow my content for a long time, before Finance by CWT was any a thing, I had a regular business blog, and a while ago, I've always been very in favor of VR. I do think VR is, well, one, it's amazing. If you've ever used a VR headset, it's absolutely insane how good they've gotten. I've been a fan of VR for a while. When Samsung launched their virtual reality headset, I had it, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. And now with Oculus, which I do not have yet, which I do want, but with Oculus and everything Facebook's doing, it's gotten so much better. Because I have used it, I just don't own one. But it's gotten so much better. Virtual reality itself is expanding pretty fast, technology wise. The technology in VR is getting better and better. And especially with many companies doing VR now and AR, I do think an actual metaverse, I can see it. I can see it happening, and I definitely believe in the overall vision of a metaverse. And while this is, definitely not popular, Facebook, or Meta now, is a company that, I've always really liked. I'm a shareholder of Facebook, and, I plan to be forever. And I think that, one, I really like the company for one, in the sense of a business standpoint. The fact that they're able to be so profitable as a social media, and as they build these new sectors, I do think that they'll be successful at it. And that's a company that I want to back. But when ProShares launched their ETF, the first question I had to ask myself is, what companies are they actually investing in? Are these the companies that I think are going to build the metaverse? So what I've done now is I pulled up ProShares ETF, and I'm at which companies they have the most money in right now, and it looks like the company that they've invested, or that most of your money, if you buy a ProShares ETF, most of your money is, or the largest percentage of your money is going to Apple. Apple makes up 8.59% of the ETF right now, and that kind of surprised me a little bit because I did think that Facebook would probably be the dominant company in a metaverse ETF, and I think it should be. I do think a metaverse, it makes sense that the metaverse ETF's main business would be Meta, But Apple makes up 8.59% of the ETF, and it is the biggest percentage of your money will go to Apple over all the other companies individually. And yeah, I didn't know exactly how I felt about that. First off, Apple is an amazing company, and I think it's an amazing investment. Like, if someone asked me, they're like, hey, like, I'm thinking about buying some shares of Apple, do you think that's a good idea? The answer is always yes, I think. But, I'm trying to look at this just from a metaverse standpoint. Does it make sense that Apple is the main company on it? I feel like the answer is no, but also, you know, it does make sense. Apple is, doing a lot in or they're starting to do a lot in VR and AR. And I know they've been working on a headset themselves that they're going to be releasing soon. And I think Apple could end up being a dominant player in the metaverse, especially because of the Apple ecosystem. Like, the fact is, if you own an iPhone, you probably own an Apple Watch. And if you own an Apple Watch, you probably own an iPad. And if they launch a virtual headset and they can put it in the Apple ecosystem and make that someone that, everyone ends up having when they have an iPhone, they win. They win at that point. They are the dominant person in VR. And I definitely could see that happening where Apple releases the headset and it becomes part of the ecosystem. But one problem or one thing I see that I don't think it'll end up becoming that is that Apple is making a more expensive headset than Oculus. And Oculus is a pretty big head start. Everyone or there's already a ton of different games and stuff on the Oculus store. And Apple doesn't really have that with VR yet. And I don't see them using Oculus. I think they'd have to start their own thing. So, that's what I see with Apple in the actual metaverse. Although I do think that Apple is a great stock. So, them being the company that, 8% goes to, I actually, it makes sense to me. I think that, I think that's a good thing. And I think that will, be a good stock to own. So from a pure investment standpoint, I'm happy Apple's there. From a metaverse enthusiastic standpoint, I can see why Apple's there. But yeah, it seems like a lot going to Apple when, one, they haven't even released the headset yet. And, we don't actually know how that's going to perform. But knowing Apple, it'll be successful. So I think I'm good with that. And it's a good company. Second, the second biggest company or the second biggest allocation of, money is going to Meta platforms, Facebook. And I'm very good with that. I think that, especially right now, Facebook is trading at such a good price, I think. And, especially after they went down 20% in a day, which I don't think they should have. Because, the earnings report they had, yes, they underperformed. It made sense why they underperformed. And they're still growing. There's still more people signing up to Facebook, every single earnings call. It's still a growing platform. And, it makes sense earnings wise since they're investing far more into the metaverse. And I really don't think that that is a bad thing, especially since I do believe the metaverse will be huge. It makes sense they're doing that, and I think this is an excellent price right now to get into Meta. And yeah, I definitely think it makes sense with this ETF. Even if you hate Facebook and all it stands for, you have to admit that right now in virtual reality, Facebook is in the lead, and they're in a pretty significant lead. What they're doing with Oculus is incredible, and especially since I believe that virtual reality will be, one of the biggest parts of the metaverse. Yeah, I definitely agree with Facebook being here. And they make up 6.72% of the ETF. The third biggest company is Nvidia. And I do like Nvidia. I think Nvidia is an excellent company. Their PE ratio is a little high. Last time I looked, I believe they're trading at 60 times their earnings. Although I'd have to look again to get the exact number, but I do know it's around 60. And that's kind of significant. There is a big premium in buying Nvidia right now. And anytime I see a PE ratio like that, and I have to pay, a big premium to buy a stock, you have to ask, does this make sense? With the trading this high behind its earnings, will I actually make any money off owning the stock? And, Yeah, I definitely think so in Nvidia. And the reason I think that is that one, the company is growing fast, even though currently it's trading at 60 times their earnings. It is a company that's growing pretty fast, and I do think that from a support standpoint with investors, investors really like Nvidia, and it's performed insanely well so far. Obviously, historic performance does not equal future performance, but yeah, I don't really see Nvidia performing bad, at least over a long period of time. Like, I just don't see that happening. It could, but I don't see that happening. I really like what Nvidia does, and I really like the company. And yes, you're going to pay a pretty big premium for it, like an insane premium for it, but I don't really see that being a bad thing long term. And they make up 6.53% of the ETF. Next up, we have Microsoft, which, again, excellent company. Microsoft's a company that I don't think I currently own shares of it, but yeah, I would totally, like, if I was, sitting here, I'm like, what should I invest in? Microsoft's almost always a good investment. Like, I think Microsoft is an awesome stock to have. But do they make sense in a Metaverse ETF? I could just be completely ignorant on what Microsoft is doing in, the Metaverse, but I really don't see it. I really haven't seen anything that they're doing. I know they're doing a lot in, like, gaming, and I can see that playing a part, but I don't know. I really don't get why Microsoft is really on here. But, that's not going to stop me from buying the ETF because, again, Microsoft's an amazing stock to have. And it's only 4.89% of the actual ETF itself. And then after that, we have another company that's kind of doesn't really make sense why it's on here, but an amazing stock to have, Amazon. Amazon's a company that I know, like, the stock hasn't performed amazingly as of late, but I mean, Amazon is just a dominant company. They host almost 50% of the actual, like, internet itself, which could play a part why they're in this ETF actually. But yeah, they host like 50% of the internet. Their store is, absolutely amazing, and it's just a ruthless business. Like, I really like Amazon stock, and they also have a really high PE ratio, so you are investing in quite a bit of, like, a premium. But with a company like Amazon, it's hard not to picture them doing well. It's just, I don't know. I think it's a great stock to have. Again, I don't get why it's on a Metaverse ETF, but it's kind of like a good thing because if you believe the Metaverse is going to take a lot of time, it's good to have really good stocks in the ETF that'll keep it trading up for a while other ones are still not performing too well. So yeah, I'm happy Amazon's on here. I don't know why they're in a Metaverse ETF, and it could be that I need to do more research on what Amazon's doing in the Metaverse, but yeah, so they make up 4.81%. And then we have Google, which, yeah, obviously Google's an amazing stock. They're kind of like, I think it makes sense for Google to be on here. They are doing work in the space, not as significant as, like, Facebook in the sense where, they're completely betting on the Metaverse and, putting, like, all that money into it, like, even naming the company after it, like it. But Google is obviously significant, like they are investing money towards it. They are working on it. And yeah, I'm good with Google being here at 4.74%. And those are all the companies I've named so far are absolutely amazing stocks to own, right? I believe anyway. Like, those are, like, every single stock I mentioned is stocks that, I would be completely comfortable putting money into. And then we have Himax Technologies. HIMX is the ticker for those who don't know it. But yeah, this is a company I don't really know much about. I have looked at the company before, and one thing that I really like about it is that their PE ratio is 4 last time I looked. And I believe that's the current PE ratio as well, like around 4. But a company trading at 4 times earnings is kind of crazy. Like, that's an amazing PE ratio, especially because looking at the stock, I do think that I do think it's a good buy just by looking at it. Again, I'm not making a recommendation on it because one, don't do that. But two, I haven't researched the company like fully to get like a full understanding of it. But from what I know, and I have to do more research, but from what I know, Himax is a good, like I think it's a good stock to buy, especially with a PE ratio like 4. I'd be completely, or I think I'd be comfortable putting money into it. But I have to do more research. But at 4.35%, you know, it, I'm glad. Like I think high max makes sense being there. And I think it. I'd again have to do more research, but from what I know, it looks like a good stock. And then we have Snapchat. Snapchat is the next highest on here. They have 3.73% of money in Snapchat. And I actually really dislike this stock. Not necessarily like the company itself. It's just one, Snapchat's not profitable. And while I mean that makes sense, that's not too big of a deal because they are growing revenue wise. I don't know. The stock's just not really one that I've ever wanted to jump on because, well, it just performs kind of insanely. I mean, they were at $80 a share at one point, and now they're at like $38 a share. And yeah, I really don't see Snapchat like they've struggled to make money. And like you have a company like Facebook, like social media wise, has basically turned social media into a giant cash cow that nets them like huge amounts of profit. And Snapchat has not figured out how to do that for themselves. And I really don't think they ever will. I really don't know if Snapchat will ever be profitable. I don't know if Snapchat will ever figure out how to actually make decent money. Like I don't know if they'll ever figure out like advertising and stuff like that. And I don't know if they can because it's a different kind of platform. No, I really don't like Snapchat's stock. I think it makes sense why they're on this ETF because they are, investing into like AR, VR. And I guess they might end up playing a factor, especially because they aren't going to launch stuff in this space. But personally, I would not want to invest in Snapchat. And they're at 3.73%. But no, I would not. There's a lot of there's a lot of companies on this list, and it'd be impossible to go through all of them, or not impossible, but it would take a lot of time. One that I want to mention is Unity Software. That's at like 2.81%. I think Unity Software, one, they're also not profitable, which is crazy. They're a $31 billion company. And I think it's crazy for a company that's valued that high to not be profitable. I'm not saying it's a bad stock. I don't think I'd buy it, but I'm not saying it's a bad stock, and I'm not saying, don't buy it. But yeah, like you see that on here. And there's a lot of other like Activisions on here, which I think is Activision just got bought by Microsoft, or they're being bought by Microsoft at I think a $90 billion dollar valuation. So, and they're currently trading less than that. So, assuming the actual deal happens, which I don't really think it will, I think it'll get blocked. But assuming the deal actually happens, you'll make money off of that. Qualcomm's on here, which is good, I think. Roblox is on here, which is, that makes perfect sense. It's only 1.53%. But yes, that makes perfect sense. They are doing a lot in the field, and I do like the company. Although it has I think it's trading at a high like PE ratio, and also, you have to ask the question: will Roblox be able to like remain popular? Because that's kind of how games work, right? Like you'll see a game, it'll go like it'll be like the next thing, and then fall quite a bit and not really recover. Like is that what's going to happen with Roblox? Like it does with so many different ones. Sony's on here, which I don't really know why Sony's on here because I don't really know what they're really doing in the metaverse. They do a lot in like technology, and I can see them playing a part. And it's like 1.14%. And I actually love Sony stock. I've been a big fan of Sony stock for quite a while, and I'm still a fan of Sony stock. So yeah, I'm happy they're on here, and I'm hoping that they keep or that they do a lot of work in the metaverse, and also I think it's a really good company to have because they have technology. They have like there's so many different divisions of Sony, and I think Sony trades at a very fair valuation. So it's a company that I'm definitely proud to invest in. Also, Twitter's on here, which makes no sense to me. I don't think that I don't think Twitter is a good stock for one, and it's like it's not one I'd want to invest in, and I don't think I ever would like invest into it. However, 9% of the company was just bought by Elon Musk. And for those who like Elon Musk, which a lot of people do, I think Twitter, especially in the short term, stock will like kind of explode a little bit. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that stock, like if anything actually changes in the company. But yeah, that's kind of, I mean, keep in mind, there is a lot of other businesses on here that I did not cover. Mostly because it would be impossible to actually go through all of these because, I mean, the one, I don't know all the businesses, and two, it's been pretty difficult to actually research all these. And it'd be a very long video and podcast. But I went through the ones that I went through the ones that were the biggest for one, with some of the others like sprinkled in the middle. And my overall opinion on this ETF is that I like a lot of the companies that are in it. I think a lot of the companies in it are amazing stocks to have. A lot of them I don't really see actually being significant in the metaverse. But yeah, there's good stocks to have, and I think it's a good ETF. One thing I do not like about it is that its expense ratio is 0.58%, which I actually think is quite a bit, although it makes sense for an ETF like this to have an expense ratio like that. But yeah, I do think that's quite a bit. But overall, I like the ETF. It's one that I'll probably do more research into before I actually buy it. But I think I'm most likely going to invest into it because I do believe in the metaverse. I think some of these companies are the ones that will build it. I don't think all of them, but I think some of them are the ones that would build it. But yeah, overall, I think this is a good ETF to have. I encourage all of y'all to do more research on it before you buy it. But I do hope this helped kind of like research the journey and like, yeah, I definitely think a lot of these are good stocks. Thank you so much for either listening to the podcast episode or watching it on YouTube. I encourage all of y'all to either subscribe on whatever platform you're currently listening on. And yeah, follow me on social media at Finance by CWT. And yeah, thank you.